make this video for quite a while. The very first video, and if you'll go into the playlist here, you'll see it. I made many years ago, 7, 8 years ago, 6, I don't know. And I turned it sideways. And but it's about the bee trap. I make and sell bee traps, Carpenter Bee Traps. Have for quite a few years, and I've made quite a bit of money doing it. Most of the equipment in my shop was paid for by the bee traps, and I want to kind of give you a step-by-step instructions on kind of how I build it. And there's so many out there. I've had really good success with the way that I make it. One of my customers said one summer he caught over 700 bees. Not that mine are any more special than anyone else's. But anyway, like I said, I want to show you how I make it, and from start to finish. Well, I've made this little jig here. I use this part right here as hardwood, and I anchor that to my drill, and I put my piece of wood in there, and I drill the hole. This is the angle, and when you drill your hole, it has to be at an angle, because that's how the bee does his hole when he drills it. He drills it at an angle, upward. Once I finish this, I think you will be able to build one yourself easy enough. Now the hole is a 1/2 inch hole. This bit is a Forster bit. It measures a 1/2 inch. So you see, we got all the holes drilled in them. Now I take another step here. Most people probably don't do this, but I run mine through a jointer. I run the edge, and I kind of flatten up both sides, maybe just one swipe through here. And to me, when they fit together, when they fit like this, they fit much more square. They fit better, and they look better. They're clean. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. Now you see how much cleaner it is? We'll run it through the jointer. I may run this one back through again. It feels kind of rough, but it'll make it fit so much better. Like I said, by doing that, when you put them together like this, they need to fit pretty tight. Now we start putting them together. Now I've made another jig that helps aid in putting them together. This is it. I put the one in here. I put this on top. This is raised just enough that it catches the lip, and then just as soon as I get this anchored, I'll show you what I'm talking about. This is what I use to nail them together with. It's a 18 gauge brad nailer. Putting these together, I'm using 1 5/8 long brads. All the jig does is just help hold them together. Now for the last one, I do it manually because you can't, the way I've made the jig, you really can't use it otherwise. So there you have it. That's part of it. Now I'll go ahead and put together all of these just like this, and then I will show you the next step. And sometimes when you drill these holes here, you see that's got a little lip on it right there. That may not make any difference at all to the bee, but I always try to clean them out a little bit. I sharpened my blade my drill bit before I started. So these holes are pretty clean. I'm not going to have to do much at all to them. You look up in there, you can see that they're a clean, round hole. And that's kind of what you want, because you know the bee, when he drills his hole, it's not dirty. His is pretty clean. So I try to make mine as clean as I can. The sharper your bit, the better clean hole you're going to have. Well, there you have it. I'm making 5 today. This is the bottom of the bee trap. Now this hole is a 1.25 inches. Doesn't have to be an 1.25 inches. It could be an inch, I suppose. I like the size of an 1.25 inches because it gives me plenty of meat on both sides here, on all four sides, to put a bread in here. So this right here is just the width of whatever is inside. If you use wood that's wider or more narrow than this wood right here, then you would just cut it to size to fit on the inside, because this right here I think is like 2.5, something like that. And if it doesn't fit perfectly, you can usually take a rubber hammer and persuade it to fit in there. That's what I did with this one, because sometimes the squareness of this thing, it's not rocket science, so you can get it close enough. I kind of turn them in a little bit, kind of toenail it. That seems to, I mean, this one is the size of the hole, but it doesn't fit exactly, so just kind of persuade it a little bit. It'll fit. Now this is top. It'll fit up here like so. But there's like 4 holes I need to put in it before I do that. And I use this little jig here for that. And this holds it. And this one I put in here, and that lines up the top of it. Now this hole here is to anchor it to the bee trap itself. These two. These 2 holes are for the staple that I put in there to use to hang it up. So anyway, I'll show you in just a minute what I mean. This is the hole for the side of the bee trap that I'll put a screw in. Now I'm not going to use the same drill bit for this inner hole, because it's a staple, and I want it to be a snug fit on that staple so that it doesn't slide up and down. I'll show you that whenever we go to put that staple in. Now these 2 holes, it is much smaller. Now these 2 holes are what the screw goes into the bee trap, so I countersink them so that the screw will be flat. I use a screw on these because sometimes when during the summer season or whatever, especially if you don't take them down in the winter, the wasp will come along and they'll build a nest in these in the bee trap. They'll get up in here somewhere and build their nest, and then the bees, the carpenter bees, won't go in if the wasps are in there. And a lot of times the wasp nest will fill up the hole, and they can't get in anyway. So that's another thing you need to keep your eyes out for, is wasps building their nest in your bee trap. I have not yet made a jig that sets down on this perfectly, so what I do is I line it up on here, eyeball it, and get the edges about the same distance apart, from here to here. The staples that I put in for hanging, that's why I wanted to get those holes smaller. I wanted at least the size of the staple. And then I take the hammer and I bend it down like that. Now there's no chance of that thing coming out of there when it's up that way. So that's the hanger. Okay, so now we gotta get this about as close as we can to center. Like I said, it's not rocket science or anything like that. It's gotta just be close. This is a 1 1/4 inch screw, and this may even be a drywall screw, I don't know. But I've had some of them hanging out there for at least 6 or 7 years, and the screws are fine. And we'll get into that in a little bit later. There you go. That's the first one. It's all ready to go. All we need now is just to add the bottle. And I will go back and take some paint and paint over these screws and around these holes, and that'll help waterproof. And while we're on that subject, this is like 1/4-inch plywood. Normally you would never want to use 1/4-inch plywood, well, any kind of plywood. This seems to work fine because it's outlasted some of the bee traps itself, actually. But I put a good waterproof paint on top, all the way around the edges and the bottom. And then I'll go back and waterproof these screws and these holes in here for the hanger. And that seems to do it just fine. Now this is fir, if you're interested in that. A lot of people use pine, but this one is cheaper wood, and it seems to work just fine. I haven't had any issues with it, and the bees don't seem to mind either. Another thing too, one of the reasons why I use these screws is because I have had a few of them come apart when I use the brad nailers. But since I've been using the screws in the top, I haven't had any issues at all. Well, here they are, all 5 of them. I made these probably 2 or 3 hours, you know, start to finish. But I did have the tops already cut out, and I had the center, the hole cut out. I had those already from last year. It will take you a while, especially if you're doing a bunch of them. One, I don't know, maybe a couple hours, hour. There's nothing precise about any of it. The bee does not care. Now some people like to paint these, and I don't paint them because I sell quite a few of them, and I leave them natural. If the person wants them painted or the customer wants them painted, I'll let them do it because they choose the color. But the bees don't seem to mind even if it's painted. Now I did paint mine white, and I still catch as many bees in them as ever. And you see how I put the boards. I did this way, and then I put it up, butted it up against it here, and I butted the other one up there, and that gives you a square. If you put one on each side, you're going to have a rectangle. Had to get my angles together there. Now the next thing I'll have to do is I've got to go cut up some bottles and get them ready, and so that we'll get that done next. Well, to get started this morning, I'm going to show you what kind of bottles I use on the bee traps. I've been using this. It's a Gatorade bottle. This see, it's a 20 ounce. And the reason I use this is two. One, it's pretty good size. There's a lot of room inside. And two, it's got this large mouth on it. Because the bee itself is pretty big, so when you get so many and you want to shake them out, this makes it much easier, because if you use a Coke bottle or something with a small neck on it, it's going to be much harder to get them out. I also use this is a Powerade bottle, and they're about the same size, 20 ounces, same reason. And so I always take the labels off of them and wash them out with hot water and get all the sticky out of them. And they've worked well. I use the top of just a regular water bottle. You can also use the top of a Coke bottle, just the top of it, like this. You cut it off. Now this, I'll show you how it's used later, but I just wanted to show you what I use. This goes on the inside of this bottle. It goes up inside here, and the reason for that is so that the bee, when it comes down through this hole, it can't find its way back up. That bee's pretty dumb anyway, but this just kind of gives it some aid to keep the bee in the bottle. This is a little apparatus that I use to cut the bottles, It's got a little sharp edge on it here. It gets hot, very hot, and it melts the bottle. I'll show that in just a minute. But this is just a little apparatus I happened upon from a place where I used to work. I think they used it to cut nylon webbing, and so it goes through the plastic real easy, as you'll see. Cuts almost like butter. Now, if you don't have an apparatus like this that will cut through, you can always use shears or scissors or something like that, or hacksaw. Just whatever you need to cut through this, cut that bottom off. And you see, it's good clean cut. And I do the same thing with the Coke bottles. I get what I need, how I want it, how big I want it, and I just cut the neck off. And there's your little funnel. You want to clip these in maybe a ½ inch, maybe a quarter to a ½ inch apart. And you see here, do this all the way around. I'll show you why in just a minute. Then you bend it back like so. And you want it to fit on a surface flat like this, because it's going to be inside the bottle. And we'll get to that in a minute. You get them done, you can flat like that. So when I get the rest of these done, I'll be back, and then we'll start putting them together. Another thing I do is I drill a hole in the top each one of these bottles. And the reason I do that is because the water, sometimes water can get in these things. And when they do, there's no place for it to go. So I put these little holes in there so that you can, the water will have a place to go. Now I use these. These are not just your regular type shears. These would actually cut metal if you wanted them to. But you need something that's pretty strong, because this plastic on here is pretty thick. Regular scissors will do it, but it'll hurt your hand after a while. So just kind of keep that in mind. You might want to get some kind of a shear to cut that with. I use this little hair staple. I use that because it's quicker. I use the hand where you power it down, but after you do about 20 or so of these, you can your hand gets kind of tired. So this is much easier. This is where bending down all the little tabs comes in. This fits on top just like so. Now that's the inside funnel I was telling you about. See, the bee will come in the hole and travel down through here. The bottle will go here on the inside. And so that kind of pretty much sets a trap for him once he gets in there. Well, I just ran out of staples, so this would be a good time to tell you what kind of staples I use. These are a ½ inch wide crown. They're number 608. This is a box they'll come in. I get these from Amazon, and I think there's 1,000 in each one. So a lot of times, well, most all the time, some of these, because of the hardness of the wood, the staples don't go down all the way, so I go back and tap them down. let's see some good. And there it is, finished product. Bee goes in here. You got your funnel right here. You'll funnel him down into the bottle, and that's where you can see him. The only thing I have left to do is I'm going to put this same kind of paint, outdoor paint, over the screw and this hanger here and that screw, and that will help seal that hole from the water coming in. But like I told you, should the water come in, you got your hole here in the bottom that the water will drain out. Now I'll go ahead and put the rest of these together and we'll see the finished product. Well, here they are. I made 5. So now I'm going to put the paint on the top and then we'll be done with them. Well, there is one more step. I have a stamp that I put on each one of them. It says, it's got my name and where I live on it. So I'll be putting that on each one, and then it'll be completed. Okay, now they're complete. Here they got the name on them on all of them, and I painted the top with the when that dries it'll be the same color as the one on there now as the top. Now they're completed, and that will seal those screw holes and the other holes. It'll do a really good job. Well guys, thank you for watching, and I don't put up too many videos because a lot of times I'm busy with my other channel. It's called Picking Up the Pieces. So if you check it out, I'd appreciate it too. But this one is Dale's Workshop, and I do builds like this, other birdhouses, you know, just a lot of different kind of things too. So repairs. So thanks for watching again, and if you would subscribe to this channel. Next video I put up, you'll know about it. We'll see you next time. Most all the tools you see in here were paid for by bee traps. Other than just being fun to make, they do serve a purpose. But again, thanks for watching.